I raised my son alone after his mother abandoned us. On his wedding day, he cut me out and welcomed her back as the guest of honor. He didn't even sit down when he said it. He stood in my doorway like a delivery man dropping bad news and keeping the engine running. Dad, I think it's better if you don't come. The word stuck under my ribs and stayed there. Don't. Like I was a dog he'd trained out of the living room. I stared past him at the slipped-off shoes by the mat. His old pair, size 12s I bought when money was ugly and his feet were growing fast. I had to blink a few times because the laces looked like little snakes. Lucas, I said, and my voice surprised me. Calm, almost polite. It's your wedding. He swallowed. His jaw did that anxious click he had as a kid. Mom's coming, he said. Maya thinks it could complicate things if you're there. It's supposed to be a clean slate. Clean slate. I let the words sit on my tongue like sour candy. Your mother. My kitchen smelled like burnt coffee I'd forgotten on the stove, and in my head I saw the yellow sticky note she left years ago on the bare fridge. I'm sorry. I can't do this anymore. Lucas had been 3, cheeks still round, hair sticking up like grass. He'd slept with his hand pressed flat to the empty side of the bed she used to warm. I don't want drama, he added, softer now, eyes on the floor. Please don't make this harder than it has to be. There's a particular quiet that opens inside a parent when your kid says please. You still hear the toddler in it, even when he's standing there with stubble, a wristwatch, and a future that doesn't include you. I turned off the burner. The room clicked as the heat died. So she gets the front row, I said, and I get outside. He flinched. He'd always been a flincher, a kid who didn't like slammed doors or sharp whistles. I taught him to tie a tie, to sand wood until the grain shined, to pour pancake batter steady, to apologize when he was wrong. I taught him to show up. It's not like that, he said quickly. It's optics. Optics. I wasn't a father anymore. I was furniture. My throat tightened. Are you asking me not to come, or telling me I'm not invited? He looked up at last, the same brown eyes I'd memorized through 1,000 school photos. I'm asking you, he said. Then, quieter, she's different now. She's been trying. She's the guest of honor. Maya's family. Dad, they just want peace. Peace. As if I was the war. I set the pot in the sink and didn't feel the burn through my calluses. Steam hissed. The air smelled like metal. Did you tell her about the nights? I asked, words aimed at no one. The terrors? The years of chicken nuggets and overdue rent, and me learning to braid, because your hair was a halo I couldn't bring myself to cut? Did you tell her about the birthday when the cake came with the wrong name, and you cried like the world ended, and I ate the slice with the stranger's name, so you wouldn't have to? Dad. His voice shifted, embarrassed now, annoyed, the way he used to get when I cheered too loud at his games. Don't. That single word was a command. Please. I'm not a kid. Outside, a neighbor's mower started buzzing. A dog barked 3 times, paused, barked again. Life went on. I folded the dish towel carefully because it kept my hands from shaking. You're a grown man, I said. So be brave enough to say it. His jaw worked. He drew in a breath. I don't want you there. The room tilted a fraction. I nodded once. There it is. He hesitated at the door. You always made it about you, he muttered. She's trying now. You never gave her a chance. The laugh that came out of me sounded rusted. She had her chance, Lucas. I watched it walk out in heels. He winced, mumbled something about leaving, and slipped past me like I might burn him. The door clicked. Silence swallowed the house. I stood until the water cooled and the window ghosts slid down in streaks. The fridge held a magnet shaped like a trout he'd made in 2nd grade, lopsided, chipped tail I'd glued back once. I touched it with a finger, counted to 10, let myself feel nothing. Then I sat at the table and let the ache arrive, slow as a tide. The first night without Jenna, Lucas wouldn't sleep anywhere but on my chest. He was 3, light as a sack of knees and hair, radiating that heat kids carry, the kind that makes you feel like a planet with one small sun. I lay on the couch because the bed felt wrong, obscene with one side cold. The apartment smelled like fresh paint and laundry soap, and something sour I could never pin down. At 2 a.m., he woke up screaming. Not scared, furious, as if his voice alone could drag her back. I hummed the stupid diaper commercial jingle, the one with the cartoon bear under a waterfall. His cries shrank to hiccups, little fists pressed against my chest. We're okay. I lied into his hair. We're okay. We weren't. But I learned quick. dinner one-handed, bill collectors on the phone with the other. Double shifts, daycare pickups, mittens lost, pennies found, duct-taped sneakers, hand-me-down car seats with straps that never sat right. When he was 5, we stood at a crosswalk, February wind biting like pennies. Without looking up, he asked, "Where's Mom?" "She's away," I said. I hate that word now. Away is where socks go. Away is where you stash takeout containers you promised to wash and never do. But it was the only word that didn't split my voice open. By 3rd grade, he wrote Santa a letter asking for a mom that stays. He left it on the sill with store cookies and a glass of milk that grew skin overnight. I found the letter, sat on his bed in the dark, the paper soft as skin. I didn't fix it. I couldn't. So I built a home out of scraps. We hammered a bookshelf from shipping pallets because I couldn't buy the real deal. He got a splinter, cried, then insisted on hammering the next nail himself, eyes burning. We planted tomatoes in a kiddie pool on the cracked concrete behind the building. He named each one, whispered to them at dawn when light hit their leaves like stained glass. By high school, the world had opinions. The boy with no mother, the man who cheered too loud. I was the dad with a thermos of cocoa, a blanket in the trunk year-round. When he rode the bench, I cheered for other kids until they liked me for it. When he finally made varsity, lungs raw from practice on fields that smelled of mud and cut grass, I cried into my jacket collar and hid it in a cough. He grew handsome in a way that made me nervous, jawline sharp, those eyes, that kindness that drew sharks. He filled the house with friends who emptied my fridge and called me sir. Then Mark. I taught them grilled cheese without burned edges, leaky faucets with quarter-turn patience. I liked the noise. It drowned out the parts of the house that still smelled faintly of someone else's perfume. He asked about her less and less, a relief that felt like guilt. He swapped bedtime stories for mall rides, stole my truck and returned it with the tank flirting with E. We fought about curfews, lost keys, a dent he swore wasn't his. Both of us stubborn, both bruised through and through. I apologized more than I wanted to, not as much as I should have. And then, years later, her name came back like a ghost tapping on glass. I was making chili, kitchen steaming cumin and tomatoes, when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Hi Mark. I've been in recovery. I'm sorry. Can we talk?" Jenna. The pot boiled over, hissed like applause against the burner. She picked the kind of coffee shop where everything is reclaimed wood and succulents in clay pots. The barista called everyone friend, like we'd all signed a membership card. Jenna was already there, hands wrapped around a mug like she'd paid extra for warmth. She looked familiar but smaller, thinner. The blonde hair I remembered now careful, as if it came from a box. Clothes nice in a way that screamed, "See, I'm put together." The bracelet with silver charms still jingled when she reached for her cup, the same sound I remembered from our 20s, when we shouted over music in dark bars and thought the future was a brightly lit room waiting for us. "I got clean," she said, voice soft, eyes steady but too bright. "I'm trying." The anger I'd rehearsed for a decade showed up without a suit. "You left a post-it," I said. "Our son learned to pee standing up without you." Her lips trembled. "I know." No, she didn't. She talked in words I didn't ask for. A man in Nevada, pills that made mornings bearable, nights forgettable. A string of cities like excuses. Words like program, sponsor, amends with the confidence of a brochure. I stirred the foam in my latte until it broke apart. When I tried to picture her bent over a crib, the memory was blurry, like a cheap photograph out of focus. "What do you want, Jenna?" I finally asked. She met my eyes. Once, that blue had been a whole ocean. Now it was a deep pool you could drown in. "To meet him," she said. "To make things right. There are only a handful of moments that split your life clean in two. That was one." I could have said no and meant it. Could have slammed the door she'd left open years ago. Instead, I heard myself say, "I'll talk to him." She exhaled like I'd handed her absolution. "Thank you." I didn't thank her back. That night, Lucas found me staring at the chili I'd reheated but not eaten. The TV was on mute, some football game flashing without sound. He sat across from me, taller than me now, his hands restless like he had a secret. "Dad," she reached out to me, too. My stomach sank. When, a couple months ago, she sent a letter to campus. He looked down, cheeks coloring like he was 15 again. I didn't know how to tell you. I wanted to be angry, to slam my fist, to demand why he hadn't come to me first. But all that came out was a whisper. And what did you do? He shrugged, helpless. I wrote back. She said she was sorry, that she was working on herself. I wanted to believe it. I rubbed my face, feeling the grit of stubble under my palm. Lucas, she left us. You don't just erase that with coffee and apologies. His jaw tightened. Maybe you don't, but maybe I can. Silence stretched between us. In it, I could hear his childhood laugh, his small voice asking about monsters in the closet, the sound of Lego bricks scattering across linoleum. And now here he was, a man defending the woman who'd walked away. I thought about telling him no, about slamming that door shut myself. But when I opened my mouth, all I said was, she wants to meet you. You'll have to decide what to do. He nodded slowly, as if the decision was already made. Later, when he'd gone to bed, I sat at the kitchen table staring at that sticky note from years ago, still folded in the shoebox under the sink. The ink had faded, but the words hadn't. I'm sorry. I can't do this anymore. And I wondered if I'd just given her a second chance to prove it all over again. They met on a Sunday, at that same coffee shop. I told myself I wouldn't go, that it was between them. But an hour before, I found myself parked 2 blocks away, hands gripping the steering wheel like it might float off without me. Through the glass I saw them. Lucas, broad-shouldered now, leaning forward, his hands restless the way mine used to be when I was young and wanted to believe in something. And Jenna, smiling like she'd never missed a birthday, never left a little boy crying into his pillow. He laughed at something she said. My son laughed with her. I couldn't hear it, but I swear it hit me harder than any words. I drove home before they came out. Sat in the driveway until the sun dipped, radio off, car ticking as it cooled. I didn't go inside until the porch light buzzed itself awake. When Lucas got home, he was lit up in a way I hadn't seen since he was a kid. His face carried the glow of some secret he wanted to protect. She's different now, Dad, he said, almost defensive. She listened. She asked about school, about Maya. She wants to know me. I wanted to ask where the hell that curiosity had been when he was 6 and sobbing over a broken toy, or 12 and terrified of middle school bullies, or 15 and standing in the rain waiting for a ride that never came. Instead, I said, that's good. 2 words that tasted like rust. He studied me, frowning, like my calm was some kind of threat. You're not happy for me. I'm glad you got what you wanted, I said carefully. Just be careful. He rolled his eyes. That familiar teenage dismissal that cuts deeper than screaming. You always expect the worst. Because I lived it, I shot back, sharper than I meant. The air between us went tight. He grabbed a bottle of water from the fridge, the door slamming harder than it needed to. Maybe she deserves another chance. And maybe I didn't. That night, I couldn't sleep. The house creaked in familiar ways, but instead of comfort, it felt like accusation. I walked to the kitchen, opened the shoebox. Held that Polaroid of our first Christmas alone, him in snowman pajamas, me in a sweater he'd picked out because it was festive. I pressed it flat, tried to remember that day. Tried to remember if the smile I wore had been real or just something I forced to make him believe we were okay. The next weeks blurred. He started seeing her more. Coffee turned into dinners, phone calls into long texts he hid when I walked into the room. One night I asked, "Are you lying to me?" He looked up from his phone, startled. About what? About how often you're seeing her. His mouth pressed into a line. Why would I lie? Because I'd raised him. Because I could read his face better than any book. Because his silence told me everything. You're an adult, I said, forcing calm. Just don't forget who was there when she wasn't. His jaw clenched. He muttered something under his breath. Quiet, but I heard it. Maybe you kept me from her, too. That sentence dropped like a knife onto the table between us. I wanted to slam my fist, to scream, how dare you. Instead, I just sat there, staring at him, realizing my son was slipping through my fingers, toward the very person who had once left him crying in his sleep. It started small. A framed photo of Jenna appeared on Lucas's dresser, right where my old fishing trip picture used to sit. Then it was her name slipping into conversation like it had always belonged there. Mom said Maya's dress is beautiful. Mom thinks we should do the ceremony outdoors. Mom suggested we use this planner. He's amazing. Mom. Not Jenna. Not even my mom. Just Mom, like the years she was gone had been erased with a keystroke. The first time he said it in front of me, my fork froze halfway to my mouth. I wanted to spit the word back at him. Mom? The woman who left you with chicken nuggets and nightmares? The woman who made me learn how to French braid because she didn't care enough to cut your hair? That's Mom. But I didn't. I just chewed and swallowed and felt something sharp travel down with the food. A week later, I came home from work to find Jenna's car in my driveway. My driveway. The sight hit me so hard I almost backed out again. Inside, laughter. Lucas and Maya at the table, Jenna between them, wine glasses half full. Like I'd walked into some alternate timeline where I was the intruder. Dad. Lucas's smile was wide, almost forced. We were just talking about the wedding. I nodded stiffly, dropped my keys in the bowl. I can see that. Jenna stood. She still had the same habit, touching her bracelet when nervous, the silver charms clinking softly. Mark. Her voice was careful, like she was testing the floor before stepping. You look good. I wanted to tell her she looked like a ghost wearing new clothes. Instead, I said, you too. Dinner carried on, but I didn't taste a thing. She laughed with Maya about flower arrangements, leaned toward Lucas when he described honeymoon ideas, listened with the attentiveness of someone who'd earned the right. I sat there, a guest in my own home. Later, when she'd gone and the house smelled faintly of her perfume again, I told Lucas quietly, I don't want her here. His face hardened. Why not? It's my house too. It's my name on the mortgage. He scoffed, the kind of sound that could strip paint off walls. You never give her a chance. I gave her 3 years of chances, I snapped. She cashed them in the night she walked out. He looked at me then, not like a son looks at a father, but like a man looks at an obstacle. Maybe she deserves another chance. I stared at him, wondering when the balance had shifted. When the boy who once clung to my chest at 2 a.m. had traded me in for the illusion of a mother. A week later, he called me into the living room, nervous energy bouncing off him. Dad, we need to talk about the wedding seating chart. I already knew. I could feel the knife twisting before he even spoke. Maya, and I think it would be best if Mom sits in the front row with her family. You'll still have a seat, obviously. Just not, right there. Front row. With her. Guest of honor. I nodded slowly, keeping my hands still so he wouldn't see them shake. So she gets the spotlight, and I get the shadows. Dad, it's not like that. Then what is it like, Lucas? My voice broke through the calm like glass. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks a lot like erasure. His mouth opened, then closed. He couldn't answer. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, the house creaking in ways that sounded like betrayal. I thought of every scraped knee I'd bandaged, every late bill I'd juggled, every birthday candle I'd lit alone. And I realized with a kind of cold clarity, I was being replaced. Not slowly, not subtly, openly, and with my son's blessing. The email came late on a Tuesday night. Subject line, final details plus seating chart. I almost didn't open it. But my thumb had a mind of its own. Names spilled down the screen like confetti, rows of guests, family, friends. Her, Jenna Blake, guest of honor. Him, Lucas Martin, groom. Me, not there. Not even a misspelling to pretend with. I sat frozen, the glow of the phone turning my hands blue. My name, gone. Erased with the ease of hitting delete. I didn't call. Didn't rage. I walked to the kitchen, pulled out the shoebox under the sink. Ticket stubs, old report cards, a paper wristband from a 4th of July fair where Lucas threw up blue slushy on my boots and laughed until he hiccuped. On top, the Polaroid from our first Christmas alone. Him in pajamas, me in that stupid sweater. Both of us smiling like we were trying out for happiness. I pressed it flat on the table. The house hummed around me, appliances ticking, the fridge whirring. Somewhere outside, a car alarm chirped. I whispered the words like a prayer I didn't believe in. Okay. Okay. The next morning, I tried calling him. Straight to voicemail. I texted, we need to talk. No reply. Hours passed. The silence stretched until it snapped. Finally, a knock on my door. Lucas, standing there like a man rehearsing bad news. Dad? He said carefully, please don't make this harder. I laughed, but it came out like a cough. Harder? You cut me out of your wedding, Lucas. How much harder do you want it? He winced. It's not like that. Mom's, she's been trying. Maya's family, they think it's better this way. Clean slate. Clean slate. My voice rose, cracked in the middle. Son, she's the reason I had to scrub slate every single day of your childhood. I carried the mess she left. I carried you. His eyes flicked away, shame or maybe defiance. You always make it about you. That one gutted me. I leaned against the doorframe, feeling suddenly older than my years. Lucas, I made it about you for 2 decades. Every shift, every bill, every lonely night, I made it about you. And now you're telling me I don't even get a seat at the table? He shook his head, exasperated, like I was missing the point. It's not about punishing you. It's about peace. Peace. There it was again, like I'd been the war all along. Something in me broke quiet. I stepped back, opened the door wider. Then go find your peace, son. He hesitated, guilt flashing across his face. But he walked out. The door shut with a soft click, louder than any slam. I stood there, staring at the wood grain, hand pressed flat like maybe it would open again. But it didn't. That night, I sat at the table and wrote 3 words on a sticky note for myself. Don't save them. I stuck it to the fridge, right above the chipped trout magnet. And for the first time in 20 years, I didn't plan how to fix what was breaking. I let it break. The morning of the wedding was quiet in my house. Too quiet. I brewed coffee I didn't drink, just let the steam fog up the kitchen window. Somewhere downtown, people were gathering, slipping into suits and dresses, smiling for photos I would never be in. I told myself I didn't care, that the silence was better. But then my phone buzzed. A message from Aunt Linda. They're about to start. Wish you were here. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. Wish you were here. 3 decades of showing up, and now I was just a wish. I set the phone face down and went for a walk. The streets were normal. Kids on bikes, sprinklers clicking, a dog barking from behind a fence. Ordinary life. But every sound felt like it was mocking me. Somewhere else, my son was promising forever, and I wasn't allowed to witness it. By noon, my phone was buzzing nonstop. Cousins, neighbors, even old friends. Photos popping up on social media. Lucas in a tuxedo, standing tall. Maya glowing in white. And beside them, Jenna, front row, smiling like she'd never missed a single year. Like she hadn't traded bedtime stories for pill bottles. Guest of honor. The caption under one picture gutted me. Beautiful family moment. Family. As if I'd never existed. I scrolled until my thumb hurt. Each photo felt like a nail, hammered in. The walk down the aisle. The vows. The kiss. Applause. All of it without me. Then came the video. Someone tagged me by mistake. It showed Lucas hugging Jenna tight, her face wet with tears, his smile wide. The caption read, "A mother's love is eternal." I dropped the phone like it burned. Stood in the middle of my living room, chest tight, eyes blurring. A mother's love is eternal. Where the hell had it been when he was sick with the flu and I sat up all night wiping his forehead with damp rags? Where was it when he begged for her at Christmas and all I could give him was a half smile and a promise she never kept? I pressed my palms into my eyes until fireworks burst in the dark. But it didn't stop the ache. That night, when the house was dark and still, I poured myself a glass of whiskey. First in years. I sat at the kitchen table with the Polaroid in one hand and the glass in the other. I whispered into the empty room. I hope it was worth it, Lucas. I hope she never leaves you again. Because I won't be here to catch you next time. The whiskey burned going down, but not enough. Nothing could touch the fire inside me. And for the first time since he was 3 years old, I let myself imagine a life without my son in it. The day after the wedding, my phone blew up again. Dozens of missed calls, unread texts. Most of them weren't even from Lucas. They were from relatives, people I hadn't heard from in years. Why weren't you there? Mark, did something happen? Your son looked so happy. You should be proud. Proud. The word tasted like ashes. Finally, a voicemail from my sister. Mark, everyone's talking. People noticed you weren't there. Some are saying you refused to come. Others think you were never invited. What's the truth? I didn't call back. What truth could I give? That I'd been cut out like mold on bread, scraped off the picture so the frame looked prettier? By evening, Lucas finally texted. Just 3 words. Are you okay? I stared at it for a long time. My thumbs hovered, 100 replies crowding my head. No, I'm not okay. You erased me. I hope you enjoyed the fairy tale with the woman who left you behind. Do you even remember who raised you? Instead, I powered the phone off. That night, I sat at the kitchen table, shoebox open. Ticket stubs. Grade reports. His 2nd grade trout magnet. Every scrap of a life I'd built for him. I thought about burning it all. Thought about striking a match and watching the paper curl, turning years of sacrifice into smoke. But I didn't. Instead, I pulled out a legal pad. Wrote a list. Not for him, for me. Changed the locks. Called a lawyer. Revised the will. Box up what's his and leave it on the porch. Stop answering calls from ghosts. Because that's what they both were now, ghosts. Jenna, with her shiny new life, built on the bones of the old one. And Lucas, my boy, who had chosen to pretend those bones didn't matter. I poured myself coffee, black and bitter. No sugar, no cream, just the taste of finality. The sticky note on the fridge caught my eye. Don't save them. For once, I listened. The next day, I called my lawyer. I need to update my documents, I said. Take my son off the beneficiaries list. Add my niece instead. The pause on the other end told me the lawyer was surprised. I didn't explain. Some things don't need explaining. That evening, I gathered every reminder of Lucas. The jerseys, the photos, the trophies. Boxed them up neat. Labeled the top, yours. I left the box on the porch. Texted him one line. Pick it up when you can. Minutes later, 3 dots appeared on my screen. Then vanished. Then again. Then nothing. I put the phone down and stepped outside. The sky was bruised purple, cicadas buzzing like static. For the first time in years, I felt something close to peace. Not because I didn't care. God, I still cared. But because I finally cared about myself more. A week passed before Lucas showed up. I heard his truck before I saw him, the old engine coughing like it always had. He didn't knock, just stood on the porch staring down at the box. His tuxedo was gone, replaced with jeans and a hoodie. But his face still carried the glow of a man who thought he had a full family again. He bent, touched the box like it might bite. Then he looked through the window and saw me. Our eyes met. His filled with something I couldn't read. Guilt, maybe, or just surprise that I was standing still, watching instead of rushing out to greet him. He motioned, like he wanted me to come outside. But I didn't move. He finally picked up the box, hugged it awkwardly against his chest, and mouthed the word Dad. I shook my head, slow, deliberate. Not out of hate, out of finality. Then I turned away. I didn't see him leave. I didn't need to. The sound of the truck fading down the street was enough. Inside, the house felt lighter. Still scarred, yes, but lighter. Like finally, the weight of being everything to someone who chose nothing in return had lifted. That night, I called Aunt Linda, the one person who had always asked how I was, not just what I could give. We talked for an hour, laughing at old stories, remembering things that belonged only to me. When we hung up, I realized something important. I still had a life. A future that wasn't chained to being a placeholder for someone else's regret. I brewed a fresh pot of coffee. Not bitter this time, I added sugar. 2 spoons, the way Lucas used to like it when he was 10. I sat at the table, steam rising, and whispered into the empty room. I raised you the best I could. I loved you when no one else did. That will always be true. But my story doesn't end at your wedding. It goes on. I let the words hang there, not as a plea, not as an apology, just a truth. And for the first time since he stood in my doorway and told me don't come, I felt like I wasn't erased. I was still here, still standing, still mine. The night settled around me, crickets chirping, the world moving forward. And so would I.